This is your Sci-Fi Now. I'm here to review the Season 2, Episode 6 of Colony. The episode name is Fallout. Most of the episodes this season seem to have double meanings in the title, so we should be looking for multiple meanings for Fallout. You know, it could be the death of BB from radiation, and Broussard being blamed on that as some fallout, and Betty getting canned from Will's action is some fallout. So there's all kinds of fallout to go around. The episode starts in northern England in a scene that paradoxically looks like Nazi-occupied Europe in World War II. The colors are unsaturated like a World War II film, and the people inspecting the civilians look and act like Nazis and even talk like Nazis, but the subtitles indicate that they're speaking Dutch, not German. So I kind of think the director went a little over the top here. I don't know, but this scene is quite interesting, and that we get to see finally a different part of the world other than Switzerland and LA. We see BB working on what they call the gauntlet. It's the thing they took off the VIP in the last episode of the last season. Remember when they had the thing in the Faraday cage, and then when the Faraday cage was opened by Katie, then it started emitting something, radio waves or something, and kind of activated. So I think that the VIP, that alien robot looking thing in the last episode of the first season, that could be like a telepresence robot. And the thing they took off of it could be, basically a Wi-Fi unit or almost a cell phone. Now, BB starts to succumb to a sickness, and we learn from the doctor that Will abducted that it's radiation sickness. Now, radiation falls off according to the inverse square law. So BB would have received much more radiation than the other two. However, BB received a fatal dose, whereas the other two didn't have any symptoms at all. So that strikes me as suspicious. It suggests perhaps internal radiation poisoning for BB, which reminds me of polonium and the case of Alexander Litvinenko. He was a Russian who was accused of treason, he spent time in prison in Russia, and then he went to live in England, and then he died from radiation poisoning from polonium. The Russians were blamed for this. The symptoms of polonium poisoning sound very much like what happened to BB. There's a loss of bone marrow, white blood cells, and platelets, resulting in infection, bleeding, and bruising. Hair loss occurs in 2 to 3 weeks, and remember, he's been working on that for a while, so that fits. So with a fatal dose, symptoms include projectile vomiting, check. Explosive bloody diarrhea, okay, glad they didn't show us that. Headache, fainting, confusion, agitation, and burning sensations. Death follows in 2 to 3 days. Just suppose that it was not the gauntlet that killed BB, but rather a person. Well, the 3 main suspects would be Simon Eckert, Morgan, or Broussard. Now, Simon Eckert, he is a little bit suspicious because he was trying to get BB to stop working on the gauntlet. Morgan's a little bit suspicious because she was wearing gloves to put the gauntlet into the lead box, and then she touched her forehead out of frustration when Simon was giving her problems. And finally, Broussard, hasn't been there, but he could have poisoned him before and then left, and so it gives him a really good alibi. Now, Simon is the most interesting suspect for me because that would mean that the Dutch Nazis, or whatever they were, in England at the start of the episode, they might be actually the good guys. So if Simon's trying to stop the cell from finding anything out about the gauntlet, that means he's on the side of the hosts, of the Raptors. So that means that the people trying to track him down are probably working against the occupation. So the Dutch Nazis could be the good guys. That's kind of an amusing possibility, but I have no idea at this point. Suddenly, there's a knock at the back door of the Yonk. Katie nervously answers the door and then says, "Who the hell are you? You're not Thor Birch." Yeah, so we've already found out before this episode, but I thought this scene was kind of funny in that context. It's the first time that Katie has seen Morgan since she changed actresses. Thora Birch, she was the lead in American Beauty, not the blonde, but the dark-haired girl. Anyway, apparently she had scheduling conflicts. So we've got a New Morgan. New Morgan drags Katie back to their lair, and Eckert is not happy at all to see Katie. He's got his finger on the trigger. Morgan talks him down, and he moves his finger safely away from the trigger. But then as they walk away, he moves his finger back onto the trigger. I love when directors put something like this in for us nerds, for people who go frame by frame. You really can't see all this unless you go frame by frame. Maddie and Nolan go to the prison where I think I spotted a continuity error. Look at the levels of the booze here, and then a little bit later here. So it looks higher now, right? I imagine the director shot this scene several times, and then he just had an inspiration. Hey, just give him like a thimbleful of booze, and that makes the scene much more dramatic. But then he decided he had to use one of his first takes where they poured more booze. Nolan wants Snyder to show him the shipment that's going off planet, and as they're walking there, they walk past a couple of oil tanks. We've had oil on the show in various forms before. Most strikingly, in the factory, there the vats are labeled with BBLS, which is a unit of oil barrels. And here the tanks say ARC, Thermrex, V32, Quench oil. So this is a kind of oil that's used to quench steel. So I guess they're doing steel manufacturing. I'm guessing that tall structure, is supposed to be the launch pad. And we saw another one of those things in Switzerland. So we see the shipment, and it's a bunch of square boxes. Now, if you recall last week, I thought there would be dead bodies in the boxes. But these really don't seem to be dead bodies here. So I thought I was wrong, especially with the preview, or the scenes from previous episodes on this episode that showed artwork. So this must be artwork here. But then we see something else later. These boxes that are more body-shaped and have a body-shaped pod inside. So that is much more promising. Now on the box, the label is IGA, which is the Institute for Global Advancement. And remember, those were the spooky CIA type guys who came and got Snyder, and they drove around in black SUVs and with automatic weapons. They're clearly government and not an institute. So it's kind of spooky that their symbol is on all these boxes. Broussard meets up with Katie and Will at night. Will blames him for the death of Bibi, handing him a spent bullet casing. And this is very heavy-handed. This seems kind of awkward. I think we're seeing kind of the seams of the show. We're seeing the minds of the writers come out here. There's something to this. Possibly Broussard is not responsible at all for the death of Bibi. It might have been Eckert or Morgan. Or it could be that Broussard is directly involved with Bibi's death, if Broussard actually poisoned Bibi and then left. It's a mystery. The show has so much potential. I hope it goes down some of these kind of complicated, twisty turns where you're not sure who is on which side. So Maya and her friends have a bomb which they show to Bram. This bomb looks way too tidy to have been made in prison. It's got a circuit board. It's really complicated. No. They were given this bomb by somebody. Now, this is kind of like the Scooby-Doo show. There aren't too many suspects. It pretty much has to be Jenkins. Could be Snyder, but I kind of eliminate Snyder, so we're left with Jenkins. So I think he is feeding that to them, and that means that whatever they use the bomb on, probably the next launch, will be a false flag. In other words, it's government that wants this to go off as a fake terrorist event, sort of like a fake 9/11 event, in order to further suppress the population, probably send more people to the factory or something like that. And the episode ends with Eckert running outside because he's fed up, and he sees posters of his mother plastered all over the place, which is really weird because she is in England as far as we know. Please give me your feedback in the comments below, and like and subscribe. It's a new channel, so it'll help out.